Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to a brand new deep dive. It is Monday, March 2026, and if you're tuning in today, you probably already know that we are looking at just a uniquely chaotic moment in the news cycle. We are watching physical world conflicts violently collide with massive market swings, all while technological leaps are happening at a pace that is, frankly, hard to wrap your head around.
What's fascinating here is the sheer interconnectedness of today's sources. When you lay them all out on the table, you start to see the hidden wiring of the global economy.
Yeah. And our mission today is to make sense of this exact moment for you. We have a massive stack of sources to get through. Breaking news out of the Middle East regarding a major energy bottleneck, wild spikes in gold prices, a very rare stumble for Warren Buffett's legendary Berkshire Hathaway, multi-billion-dollar AI hardware bets, and some major consumer tech reveals from Apple and the Mobile World Congress.
Right, and like I said, it's all connected. We are looking at a geopolitical shock in the Middle East that is instantly rippling through global energy supply chains. That physical disruption is shifting billions of dollars in the financial markets almost overnight. And yet, when you look at the tech sector, there is this stark, almost unbelievable contrast. The tech world is moving at a relentless, unbothered pace of innovation, completely detached from the physical chaos happening everywhere else.
It really feels like we are living in a tale of two entirely different realities right now. Let's start with the physical world, because the breaking news today is intense. We have reports of a rapidly escalating situation in Qatar and the wider Middle East. According to the reporting, an Iranian drone attack has forced Qatar to completely shut down its Laffan plant.
And this is huge.
Right, and just for some context for you listening, this isn't just a standard processing facility. Laffan is the world's largest liquefied natural gas, or LNG, export facility.
It is a massive domino to fall. And to understand the gravity of this, we really have to look at the immediate legal and market reactions. Qatar Energy has officially declared force majeure.
Let's pause right there, because we hear that term thrown around a lot during global crises. In plain English, what does a force majeure actually mean for the global energy supply?
Essentially, it is the ultimate legal get-out-of-jail-free card for a corporation. In contract law, declaring force majeure means an unavoidable catastrophe has occurred, which legally allows Qatar Energy to miss all of their delivery obligations without facing any financial penalties or lawsuits.
So they are officially off the hook.
Exactly, they're off the hook. But the countries relying on that gas are suddenly left out in the cold. The market reaction to this declaration was instantaneous. European gas futures surged up to 54%, hitting €44 and 51 cents a megawatt hour. That is the absolute highest price we have seen since March of 2025. And the crisis is compounding. Israel has also ordered the temporary closure of its Leviathan gas field, which is their biggest producer. That specific closure has prompted Egypt to desperately seek out more LNG cargoes just to cover their sudden domestic shortfall.
And just when you think the energy bottleneck couldn't get any tighter, we have another massive headline in the same region: the Strait of Hormuz. I was looking at a map of this earlier, and it is shocking how tiny this strait actually is. It is only 20 miles wide at its narrowest point.
It's incredibly narrow.
Yeah, the actual shipping lanes are just 2 miles wide in each direction, separated by a 2-mile buffer.
Yeah.
Yet, this tiny geographic keyhole is the pathway for about 20% of the world's total daily oil production. We're talking about 25 to 30% of all seaborne oil squeezing through that narrow gap every single day.
The irony here is quite striking when you review the raw data from the latest MUFG Americas report. Before this sudden escalation, the world was actually experiencing the most well-supplied oil market in modern history. Oh, absolutely. Thanks to a massive surge in non-OPEC supply coming from the U.S., Canada, Guyana, and Brazil, the International Energy Agency was projecting a global oil surplus of 3.8 to 3.9 million barrels per day for 2026.
Wait, but I read that exact same report about the massive oil surplus. How does one strait shutting down cause prices to spike that violently if we're supposedly swimming in oil globally?
It's a great question, but think of it like having a massive overflowing reservoir of water, but the only pipe leading to your house is suddenly blocked. It doesn't matter how much water exists in the reservoir if it can't reach your faucet.
That makes total sense.
The world has a surplus, but because so much of it relies on this single choke point to reach global markets, that surplus doesn't guarantee security. Based strictly on the MUFG analysis, if we see a sustained closure of the Strait of Hormuz, we are looking at oil hitting the $100 to $120 per barrel range instantly. And if the physical infrastructure actually takes damage, it could easily spike over $120.
And we are already seeing the stock market react to that exact fear. Travel and airline stocks, companies like Delta, United, and American are taking a dive today as fuel costs threaten to skyrocket. Meanwhile, the big energy majors like Exxon and Chevron are seeing their stock prices rise as investors bet on higher oil prices, padding their margins.
We are also seeing the logistics and shipping industry scramble to price in this physical risk. Hapag-Lloyd, which is one of the major global shipping companies, just announced a massive war risk surcharge. They are slapping an additional $1,500 fee post-standard shipping container and a massive $3,500 fee for reefer or special containers for any cargo moving through the upper Arabian and Persian Gulf.
Just to clarify, for anyone who doesn't work in global shipping, a reefer container is a refrigerated container, right? The ones used to move perishable food and critical medicines.
Exactly. So this isn't just an abstract geopolitical event happening on a map. When container ships are suddenly slapped with $3,500 surcharges just to move basic food and medicine, that cost gets passed directly to the consumer. It is direct, measurable increase to the cost of keeping the world running.
So what does this all mean for the broader financial picture? Because when container surcharges spike and energy is threatened, inflation fears immediately ignite. And when inflation spikes, capital gets terrified and runs for the oldest safe haven in the book. Which brings us to the wild movement we're seeing in gold today. Gold futures just spiked to $5,400 an ounce.
It is an incredible surge, but JP Morgan is projecting this is nowhere near the ceiling. They are forecasting that gold will rise another 22% from current levels to hit $6,300 by the end of 2026.
That is a massive jump.
It is, and what is crucial to understand is the why behind this. It is not merely a knee-jerk geopolitical panic. There are deep structural shifts driving this demand that go way beyond a single drone strike. Central banks around the world are projected to buy 755 tons of gold in 2026. On top of that, new, massive demand is emerging from Chinese insurance giants and, rather surprisingly, from the crypto community looking to diversify their volatile portfolios.
Okay, the central banks and the crypto community make sense to me, but why are Chinese insurance giants suddenly hoarding physical gold?
It comes down to long-term stability against currency swings. These insurance giants manage trillions in premiums. With the global economy looking this fragile and traditional fiat currencies facing inflation risks from these exact supply chain choke points we just discussed, they're looking for an asset that cannot be printed or easily devalued. It's a structural shift toward tangible, physical wealth.
That structural shift is relentless right now. Now, contrast gold's massive success today with what is happening to a traditional anchor of the financial markets, Berkshire Hathaway. We are seeing Berkshire shares take a 5% slide today, which is their largest single-day decline since Warren Buffett's tenure as CEO ended.
The analysis of the Berkshire situation from the earnings reports is incredibly revealing. Their Q4 operating earnings fell by nearly 30%. To understand why that happened, you have to understand Berkshire's core financial engine. They are a massive conglomerate owning companies like GEICO, the BNSF Railway, and huge stakes in Apple. But their real superpower has always been using insurance float.
For the uninitiated, float is essentially the premium money we all pay to our insurance companies every month, which the company gets to hold on to and invest before they eventually have to pay out a claim, right?
Precisely. It is essentially billions of dollars of free leverage that they use to fund their value investing. But the recent reports point to significant weakness in their insurance operations, which means that float engine is sputtering. That is the primary driver for this earnings miss.
It's a real stress test for the new leadership. CEO Greg Abel is having his tenure tested early on. What's wild is that the company is currently sitting on a record cash pile of over $370 billion. They have an unimaginable amount of liquid money, but in an environment where traditional sectors are getting hit by insane physical world volatility, like the warning today that S&P might cut their Pacific Corp utility down to junk status due to literal wildfire risks, finding the right place to deploy $370 billion safely is a massive headache.
It really is.
But here's where it gets really interesting. While the physical world is navigating drone strikes, shipping choke points, and utility wildfires, and traditional finance is seeking refuge in literal vaults of gold, the tech world has its foot firmly planted on the gas pedal. Let's look at Nvidia's massive new move today.
The scale of this move is staggering. Nvidia just closed a $4 billion bet, investing $2 billion each into two specific companies, Coherent and Lumentum. The stated goal here is to secure manufacturing capacity for silicon photonics networking.
Okay, silicon photonics sounds like something out of Star Trek. break that down for us. Why is Nvidia dropping $4 billion on this specific technology?
It comes down to the physical limits of how computers talk to each other. As AI models grow exponentially larger, the traditional copper wiring used inside data centers simply cannot move data fast enough. If you try to push that much data through copper, the wires get too hot and literally melt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so silicon photonics solves this by using microscopic lasers and light to transfer data instead of electricity. Nvidia realizes that to build the next generation of AI data centers, they have to completely overhaul the fundamental physical infrastructure of computing. Light doesn't melt copper.
And this rapid AI integration isn't just staying neatly inside commercial data centers either. We also have the news today that OpenAI has inked a new massive deal with the Pentagon. Following a government directive that completely cut off their competitor, Anthropic, OpenAI is advancing rapidly into highly classified military and government spaces. The sources note there are strict guardrails in place regarding surveillance and autonomous weapons, but it just shows how deeply embedded AI is becoming in the core of national security.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the immediate human cost of this rapid acceleration. It's not all just abstract data centers and classified government contracts. The news out of Block, the fintech company, formerly known as Square, is jarring. They are suddenly cutting 40% of their staff. And what is most notable is that they specifically cited the implementation of intelligence tools as the primary reason for the layoffs. We are witnessing AI transition from a theoretical driver of stock market valuation to a very tangible force that is actively replacing white-collar jobs overnight.
It is a harsh reality check. Honestly, it makes you want to be incredibly nice to ChatGPT today, just in case it remembers. But let's bring the focus down to the consumer level, to the gadgets we actually hold in our hands, because the tech industry dropped some massive consumer news today as well. Apple completely surprised everyone today by dropping the iPhone 17. And honestly, at $599, it feels like they are throwing down the gauntlet to completely dominate the budget market.
They absolutely are. When you look at the hardware spec that Apple has put together here, the value proposition is immense. For that $599 entry price, they have doubled the base storage to 256 gigabytes. It's powered by the latest generation A19 3nm chip, which Apple claims makes it up to twice as fast as the iPhone 11. It features a 48-megapixel fusion camera that essentially acts as two cameras in one, providing optical quality telephoto. And it includes the new C1X cellular modem, which they state is up to twice as fast as the previous generation.
Let's talk about that 3nm chip for a second, because tech companies love throwing that phrase around in marketing. What does that actually mean for the person holding the phone?
To put that in perspective, a nanometer is unimaginably small. By shrinking the architecture down to 3 nanometers, they are packing billions of microscopic transistors so incredibly close together that the phone can process complex AI tasks at lightning speed without draining your battery by noon or melting in your hand.
And it looks like they are heavily pushing durability and software features to match that speed. It's got an aerospace-grade aluminum design, the new Ceramic Shield 2 on the front offering 3 times better scratch resistance, and it's shipping fully loaded with iOS 26. That means it comes out of the box with Apple Intelligence, including features like live translation happening right in your text messages and phone calls, and visual intelligence where you can just point your camera at a restaurant or a landmark to instantly pull up information.
It is an aggressive play. But Apple isn't the only one making major hardware waves today. Over in Barcelona at the Mobile World Congress, the hardware reveals have been wild. Honored to showcase the Magic V6 foldable phone. What stands out immediately is the battery technology. They somehow managed to fit a massive 600 and 660 milliamp hour silicon carbide battery into a device that folds in half. They increased the silicon content by 25% just to achieve this massive capacity in such a slim profile.
You could probably jumpstart a small sedan with a battery that size. And historically, foldables used to be so incredibly fragile, but the Magic V6 is boasting IP68 and IP69 certifications. For anyone who isn't a spec nerd, that means this phone can not only survive being submerged in deep water, but it can actually withstand high-pressure, high-temperature water jets. Plus, it has a super steel hinge that's been drop-tested with a new bionic cushioning system. But as someone deeply entrenched in the Apple ecosystem, the thing that actually made my jaw drop is the cross-platform play Honor announced. They showed off two-way notification sync with iPhones, deep integration with the Apple Watch, and you can even use this Android foldable as a secondary monitor for your MacBook.
That kind of ecosystem crossing is practically unheard of. The walled gardens are finally starting to crack. And Lenovo also brought some incredibly futuristic concepts to MWC. They showed off a ThinkBook modular AI PC, which is built entirely on the philosophy of Carry small, use big. It's a 14-inch base where you can physically attach secondary displays or modular keyboards to expand your workspace up to 19 inches. They also showcase the YogaBook Pro 3D, which offers glasses-free 3D manipulation for digital creators, and the Legion Go Fold, which is a gaming handheld that folds out into a much larger screen.
Instead of just releasing standard laptops, it feels like Lenovo is betting that the future of computing isn't one static device, but a modular ecosystem you just snap together depending on what your day looks like. It's like the Legofication of tech. But the Lenovo announcement that really caught my eye wasn't just physical hardware. It was their new software layer called Lenovo Qira.
Yes, Kira is what Lenovo is calling personal ambient intelligence. The key distinction to understand here is that Kira is built directly into the foundational system level of Lenovo and Motorola devices. It isn't just a separate app you have to open. It operates in the background across your PC, your tablet, and your smartphone to maintain perfect continuity based on your intent. If you combine the concept of Kira with Apple Intelligence on the new iPhone 17e, the broader macro trend is unmistakable. AI is completely reshaping the operating systems and the physical hardware we interact with on a minute-by-minute basis.
Which brings us to a really important point for you, the listener. When we look at all of this global energy markets in chaos, traditional shipping routes closing, AI replacing 40% of a company's workforce overnight, and the very devices we use to work transforming in real time, how is anyone supposed to keep up with this blistering pace of change?
That is the defining challenge for what we might call the learner today. Based on the source material discussing the evolution of digital education resources, the transition to fully downloadable digital formats, PDFs, ebooks, and decentralized knowledge platforms is the only viable response to this level of speed.
Right, because a printed textbook explaining global supply chains or artificial intelligence is completely out of date the exact second it rolls off the printing press right now.
Exactly. Digital resources offer unprecedented real-time adaptability. They provide instant searchability across massive 1,000-page documents, portability that allows you to carry entire libraries on a single mobile device, and the ability to easily cross-reference breaking information from platforms like Project Gutenberg, the Open Library, or academic portals like JSTOR. The environmental sustainability aspect is a nice bonus, but functionally, in a world moving this incredibly fast, possessing digital literacy, which is the ability to instantly access, verify, and synthesize digital information, is no longer a luxury. It is the absolute baseline requirement to maintain a competitive edge and adapt to these constant, violent structural shifts.
It really puts things in perspective. Just to summarize the massive scoop of what we covered in today's deep dive, we started with Iranian drone strikes forcing Qatar to shut down the world's largest LNG plant, sending European gas prices skyrocketing 54%. We watched global capital flee to safety, sending gold surging past $5,400 an ounce, while traditional giants like Berkshire Hathaway took a 5% hit amid insurance struggles. We saw Nvidia drop $4 billion to literally reinvent how data centers are wired with lasers, while Block laid off 40% of its workforce because of AI integration. And finally, we looked at how consumer tech is aggressively adapting, from Apple's $599 iPhone 17 to the wild new modular AI PCs and unkillable foldables dominating MWC.
This raises an important question when you look at the board as a whole. There's a stark, almost uncomfortable contrast between the extreme fragility of the physical world, where a single drone strike in the Middle East can upend global energy flows and send shipping costs through the roof, and the relentless, almost bulletproof momentum of the digital and AI world. Our physical supply chains are incredibly vulnerable, yet technological leaps are accelerating as if the physical world doesn't even matter.
And that leaves us with a fascinating, entirely new angle to consider. If AI is making our digital infrastructure and software capabilities virtually bulletproof, while our physical supply chains remain just one drone strike or one blocked straight away from total collapse, it begs the question, how will we define true security and luxury in the coming decade? In the year 2030, will the ultimate status symbol be the newest modular AI supercomputer, or will true luxury simply be physical, offline self-sufficiency? Will the most secure people be the ones with an off-grid cabin and an independent local food supply, completely detached from these fragile global choke points? It's something to mull over as you navigate the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, keep learning, and we'll catch you next time.